Good morning and welcome to Churchill Downs. It's a gorgeous Tuesday, temperature in the mid 60s. The main track is fast. For this morning's Dawn at the Downs Derby Workout Show presented by TwinSpires.com. If you're on social media joining us this morning, tell us where you're from. We'll be answering some questions from the social media audience a little bit later on in the program. And don't forget, you can bet on the Kentucky Derby fast, safe, and easy online at TwinSpires.com and on the TwinSpires app. And we've got some action here this morning from the Kentucky Derby and Oaks contenders. The major headline this morning will be a breeze from the Belmont-trained Lockout, who yesterday moved up into number 12 in the Kentucky Oaks lineup with the defection of It Tis Well. So Lockdown is now in the field, and we'll be seeing her breeze here this morning. Also hoping to get a good look at Fountain of Youth winner Gunnevera, who did show up here at Churchill Downs a couple of days ago. He should be stretching his legs out on the racetrack here this morning as well. As you can see right now, we've got from the barn of Mark Cassie's State of Honor. Now, State of Honor hasn't really done much winning lately, but he has run behind some of the top potential Kentucky Derby contenders for Team Cassie. The son of To Honor and Serve is one of those horses that always seems to be around the money. He was third behind McCracken in the Sam F. Davis. He was second in the Tampa Bay Derby behind Tapwrit. Most recently second behind Always Dreaming in the Florida Derby. Of course, Team Cassie also has Classic Empire, who's been coming out early in the mornings. He was out between 6 and 6:30 this morning getting his regular work on the racetrack for this operation. State of Honor scheduled to be ridden by Jose Lascano, whose best finish in the Kentucky Derby came in 2010 when he was second aboard Icebox. And State of Honor, one of the taller horses we'll see in this year's Kentucky Derby field. As you can see, he absolutely dwarfs the pony. He's known affectionately around the barn as the Giraffe. So State of Honor on the racetrack right now, Kentucky Derby contender for trainer Mark Cassie. As you can see, Lockdown making her way onto the racetrack again. She is scheduled to breeze this morning. Yesterday, she moved into the 12th position in the Kentucky Oaks field, which does get her into the race. Lockdown, for Bill Mott, the winner of the Basanda Stakes, and second, a distant second at that, behind Miss Sky Warrior in the Gazelle. And we switch off of a Lockdown to get a look at the horse that we just mentioned a few moments ago. And there he is, Gunnevera, one of the more intriguing horses in this year's Kentucky Derby field for quite a few reasons. Ridden by Jose Castellano. We'd like to congratulate Jose for being inducted into the Hall of Fame just yesterday. Trained by Antonio Sano, winner of 3,000 races in Venezuela. He came to the United States in 2010. And the Venezuelan team, so to speak, with Castellano and Sano. And this horse was purchased for just $15,000, and he's already earned well over $1 million in his career. Impressive winner of the Fountain of Youth, most recently third behind Always Dreaming as the favorite in the Florida Derby. Javier Castellano is winless in the Kentucky Derby so far, but as I mentioned, we definitely congratulate him on his Hall of Fame induction. And now we move over to State of Honor here, who's getting a little bit of a gallop in for Team Cassie. Again, a big, long striding horse. Has been out earlier in the mornings the last couple of days. We get our first look here on the Dawn at the Downs show at State of Honor. State of Honor just getting a nice calm leg stretcher here this morning. Again, if you're just tuning in, we welcome you to the Dawn at the Downs Kentucky Derby Workout Show presented by TwinSpires.com. Again, the major action this morning will be a workout from the Philly Lockdown, who is number 12 on the Kentucky Oaks list. She just got word that she will be in the field after the defection of It Tis Well yesterday. Right now you're watching a gallop from Kentucky Derby contender State of Honor, who's hit the board behind the likes of McCracken, Tapwrit, and most recently Always Dreaming. Last 3 starts, a very consistent individual. And there you see Kentucky Oaks contender Salty, also from the Cassie barn. Cassie's with Classic Empire and State of Honor for the Kentucky Derby, and Salty, a major player for the Kentucky Oaks, slated to be ridden by Joel Rosario. Rosario aboard for the last 2 victories, a maiden win followed by a emphatic victory in the Grade 2 Kentucky Oaks. Both of those races at Gulfstream Park, and Salty getting a good leg stretcher over the fast Churchill Downs main track here on a Tuesday morning, just 10 days away from the Kentucky Oaks and 11 days away from Kentucky Derby 143. Now we're getting a look at Lockdown. Mentioned earlier that she will breeze here this morning. In the process of gearing up for that. As of this moment, as far as the information that I have, no rider named yet on Lockdown for Belmont. Keeping an eye on Lockdown here is, again, she is slated to breeze here this morning. It looks like she's gearing up here to begin her work. Lockdown working in some company this morning. She's obviously with a pink saddle towel on the inside, the workmate on the outside of her. Lockdown into our gallop out as soon as we get official workout times. We will pass those along to you. It is Jose Ortiz who will be riding Lockdown number 12 of 14 on the Kentucky Oaks list. So she is well into the body of the field. 14, the number of runners limited in the Kentucky Oaks as we now switch gears over to the Kentucky Derby and Practical Joke. And this is the first we've seen of him here on the Dawn of the Downs workout show. Practical Joke trained by Chad Brown at a very, very good 2-year-old campaign. Most recently second in the Bluegrass. Todd Pletcher with some horses out here on the racetrack this morning as well. But right now we're getting a look at Practical Joke. Joel Rosario won the 2013 Kentucky Derby with Orb. Chad Brown 0 for 3 in the Derby. $23 million in purses last year. 2016 Eclipse Award winning trainer. And speaking of Eclipse Award winning trainers, Todd Pletcher has 5 horses of the 20 slated to compete in the Kentucky Derby, and this might be the fastest one out of the gate. It was Battalion Runner, most recently the runner-up in the Wood Memorial. After winning his 2 previous races at Gulfstream, a maiden breaker and an allowance race, set the pace in the Wood Memorial and wound up finishing second. Got Todd Pletcher with 5 potential runners, including this guy, Tapwrit, who was very impressive all winter long at Tampa Bay. He was second to McCracken in the Davis. He won the Tampa Bay Derby very impressively, and then he threw in an inexplicable clunker in the Bluegrass at Keeneland, which is obviously a strangely run race won by a maiden and IRAP. And the connections, didn't really blink. They said, the very next day that he's going to Churchill Downs, there's nothing that we can find different about the horse. We're just going to toss that race out and think that he will bounce back to his best form once again. So Tapwrit, one of 5 Todd Pletcher trained runners. Always Dreaming and Patch slated to arrive today for the Pletcher Brigade. Todd Pletcher started at least 2 horses in the Kentucky Derby in 14 of the last 17 years. He started 5 horses in the 2007 and again in 2013. And we have those workout times courtesy of Darren Rogers on lockdown. And here are the splits. Opening 8th and 12 and 2, opening quarter and 24 and 2, 3/8 and 36 and 2, half mile and 47 and 4, 5 furlongs and 59 and 2, and 6 furlongs and 112 and 4. Elate, who was the workmate, and she was considered a major player for the Oaks earlier on this spring. She goes 59 and 1 and 112 and 3. Elate started 1 length behind lockdown and finished slightly in front of her at the wire. So again, a pretty good working company there for lockdown and Elate, 2 top fillies from the Bill Mott Brigade. And we thank Darren Rogers for that quick information on those workout times. J-Boy's Echo on the racetrack now for Dale Romans. And the big news with J-Boy's Echo is the fact that he needs a rider. And Robbie Alvarado breaking a bone in his leg the other day in an unfortunate mishap at a 5.5 furlong turf race at Keeneland when he was dumped from his mount right out of the starting gate. Workout a couple of days ago here for J-Boy's Echo, just getting a leg stretcher here this morning. And there you see Jordan's Henny, Kentucky Oaks contender, a horse that has some experience here at Churchill Downs, always tries very hard for Michael Tomlinson. Jordan's Henny getting a leg stretcher here this morning. Most recently 3rd in the Gulfstream Oaks behind Salty. She was 2nd earlier in the Devona Dale. A lot of experience on her side. She's already run 9 times in her career. Again, a very consistent performer, hitting the tote in 7 of those 9 lifetime races, and stepping up her class a little bit in her recent starts with that runner-up performance in the Devona Dale. And a third behind Salty in the Gulfstream Oaks. It's another look at J-Boy Zecco, mentioning that Robbie Alvarado, with that injury, will not have them on aboard. J-Boy Zecco waiting for a rider for him, and Daddy's little darling as well in the Kentucky Oaks. Also looking for a rider, so in the next day or two, most likely, getting rider changes for both J-Boy Zecco, pictured there. Winner of the Gotham Stakes. Most recently off the board in the Bluegrass. Had a workout here at Churchill Downs a couple of days ago. Trained by Dale Romans, who hit the board a couple of times in the Kentucky Derby with his starters. Third twice, in fact, Patio Prado 2010, Delahan 2012. J-Boy Zecco most recently a disappointing 4th in the Bluegrass. Again, the special training for the Derby and Oaks horses, 8:30 to 8:45 Eastern Time mornings here at Churchill Downs. So at that point, we have a lot of other horses from the colony getting out onto the racetrack for their morning exercise. And I believe we're going to get a couple of questions from the social media audience here in regards to the Kentucky Derby and Oaks contenders as we continue to watch training here this morning. Again, Oaks and Derby horses off the track at 8:45. This is the general population, so you won't be seeing any more Derby and Oaks contenders at this point. But again, this gives us an opportunity to answer a lot of questions from the audience. And there's been quite a few questions in the social media world about who I like in the Derby. And I'm looking very forward to seeing Always Dreaming here. He's supposed to arrive today at Churchill Downs. We've seen some of the top Pletcher horses, but Always Dreaming is a horse who has won twice over 9 furlongs already. I like the way he's done it. I like the way Pletcher has organized his 3-year-olds this year, particularly Always Dreaming, who I think has the stamina to do a tremendous job in the Kentucky Derby. He's got tactical speed. And I have a question about Gary Stevens, who obviously is a legend in the horse racing game. And if he has a mount in this year's Kentucky Derby, he is slated to ride Royal Mo if Royal Mo gets into the field for John Sheriffs. He's right now on the outside looking in. He needs a couple of defections. Gary Stevens, again, with multiple comebacks in his career, has had just a tremendous run at it over the course of many, many years, a Hall of Famer, and still doing his thing is Gary Stevens. John Sheriffs has 2 horses in this year's Derby, in Gormley and potentially Royal Mo if he were to get in. And if Royal Mo does get into the Kentucky Derby field, he will be ridden by the Hall of Famer Gary Stevens. Classic Empire, a lot of questions about him in the chat, and he's been coming out early in the mornings. He's been coming out between 6 and 6:30. This is his home base at Churchill Downs. He broke his maiden here, and he was stabled here as a 2-year-old and obviously wintered in Florida. And he's been back on the grounds for quite some time now, but in his daily routine, he goes out early in the mornings. We've been seeing him between 6 and 6:30. If you do a search on Twitter for Classic Empire, there's lots of video of him galloping in the mornings at Churchill Downs, and on the Kentucky Derby website as well. There's video clips of Classic Empire. So yes, he is here. Yes, he is doing well. Well documented that he had a few blips on the radar during the course of the spring, but appears to be pointed back in the right direction after his win in the Arkansas Derby. So, yep, Classic Empire here on the grounds and doing quite well. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this morning's Dawn at the Downs, Kentucky Derby and Oaks Contender Workout Show presented by TwinSpires.com. We will join you again tomorrow, Wednesday at 8:30 in the morning. Have a great day, everybody.